Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be looking at a rather interesting mod for the vampire counts, which promises to change their playstyle completely with the use of a minor faction, Alluvian's playable Ordo Draconis faction. This is a mod which introduces the Ordo Draconis, also known as the Blood Dragons, as a playable faction in Total War Warhammer 2. The goal and focus of this mod is to create a playable faction comprised of Blood Knights, with the option to utilize other lesser forms of undead. Penalties will exist for low-level undead, zombies and skeletons, but use of more advanced undead, Black Knights, Graveguard, etc. will be enhanced via character skills, custom texts, and building chains. The mod itself is incredibly lore-friendly. For those not aware in the lore, each of the different bloodlines in the Warhammer Fantasy universe had different forms of unit composition, forms of combat, and so much more. This type of information is normally unknown unless you used to play back in the days of, I believe, 6th edition, where you had the vampire bloodline armies. Obviously I'm referring to the tabletop Warhammer Fantasy, so it's nice to see a mod being implemented which brings that into life in Total War Warhammer. So let's not waste any more time and jump right in. For the purpose of this campaign, I will start a fresh new one in easy mode and easy battles. This is simply so I can show off anything of interest for this mod at a much quicker pace. Our campaign begins in the newly renamed Bloodkeep in the Southern Grey Mountains. We're surrounded by potential enemies, but nothing that we can't handle. Interestingly enough, we're also currently at war with Manfred von Carstein, but then again, he's quite far off and it doesn't seem like he would be much of a problem. There are a fair amount of new buildings implemented for this vampire count army, all of which interpret the lore fairly well. Some of them either introduce new units, new mechanics, or just pretty much act as a main hub. It is important to note, however, that most of the vampire count buildings for the Ordo Draconis have a maintenance cost, which gets larger and larger as you improve on these buildings. It can be a bit of a drain on resources early game and later on when you're building a large empire, so manage your finances as this faction as efficiently as possible. All Ordo Draconis specific buildings can be found in one section of your construction menu. It's rather helpful to have them all together as it's easier to find. Now you will notice all units recruitable by said buildings are fairly expensive. This is because the Order of the Blood Dragons was never really known to have massive armies. Instead, they were smaller, more elite forces, mostly filled with vampires. Pay attention to your unique buildings, especially any landmarks that may pop up. Believe me, they are very useful in this mod. It is very much the case that some of them may provide benefits which could radically change the course of battle should you find yourself being pushed back to your own locations. The vanilla aspect of the technology tree pretty much stays the same. In truth, the vampire technology tree itself is quite good. There is the obvious addition to one of the trees where you'll see minor upgrades to certain units. For example, your many types of horse cavalry, your vampiric blood knights, and so on. This is something you should focus on if you're playing on this mod, because a lot of these technologies also reduce the upkeep for these units. Sure, it's only 1% here and there, but believe me, it racks up and it's very much needed. Wallach Harkon is your custom legendary lord. The majority of his basic skills are those found in any common vampire lord. However, there is an element of uniqueness when you look into the special ones. Some of them revolve around boosting his damage output, buffing up units, reducing their upkeep, and so on. He is very well rounded as a melee-based lord and his stats represent as such. You can see his stats in the left side of this skill screen. However, I would say I find it very weird that he doesn't have the option to start off with a mount as from level 1. I think that's my only complaint regarding the character itself. But with that, I'll carry on with this campaign, and stop at anything that may be of interest for you all. You may have noticed that the Legendary Lord had no special items. I think this was intentional, as from level 2 you'll get a series of quests. Each of them will reward you with either cash or a epic level item. These are fairly good items, and I've noticed that as the campaign continues, you will get more and more quests, some of which will even reward even more powerful items. You can decide then to give it to other Lord characters, or have this vampiric death blob in one army with some immensely powered hero characters. I did this myself during my own playthrough, and it was immensely overpowered. Just in case you wanted a better look at the Legendary Lord's faction traits, they are on screen right now. You'll notice the reduction in Winds of Magic. This is simply because this army itself is more geared around melee combat rather than magical combat. Blood Dragon Lords are also very common, but bear in mind that they are a tad more expensive than the other lords. However, their damage output is quite high, so in all honesty, it is worth it. Also, it's good to have these characters available, especially if you want to play a more thematic, role-playing type of style. You'll also notice hero choices are Blood Dragons too. I believe there are 3 different types, and yeah, they more or less fill out the same role, barring the fact that one himself is a spellcaster. That I believe is the Forge Master, which you unlock in later game. But generally, all the different hero choices are quite good in melee combat, either on foot or mounted. As long as they're flanked alongside other Blood Knight units, they're pretty much safe. You have 2 fortification choices when building up settlements. The more vanilla style, which gives you the basic stuff that everyone already knows, or the Blood Fort. This is generally the better option, as obviously the Blood Knights themselves are much more powerful units and there are lots more benefits provided by this building. However, as stated before, there is the issue of the maintenance costs, which could be a massive problem early game. These are the stats and some of the skills for a second hero type, the Blood Dragon Castellan. This one is focused around more generalized buffs, either armies that they join or faction-wide bonuses. They still do a decent amount of damage, to be honest. Keep your eye out during your campaign when looking around for landmark buildings. This one, for example, in the city of Null, gives a massive amount of benefits. I don't think even all of them are even showing on the screen. But with that, we're going to look at all the custom units available through this mod. Please bear in mind we won't be checking out the stats until a little later into this video, but I just wanted to show that there is a fair amount of new units created here. You can, in theory, field nothing but Blood Knights in armies. They are very powerful, but bear in mind they are very expensive, so you're going to need the capital to back you up in campaigns. And lastly, we're going to show off the units themselves. I will be panning over the units quite lightly, so I do suggest pausing wherever relevant if you want to look over the stats at a much better detail. Before anything, you'll notice later on in the video, there are some T-posing Blood Knights. It's rather strange, they didn't seem to do that when I had them in campaign. I'm not sure if this is a one-off bug or not. But other than that, the army itself is very playable. This mod provides a decent amount of custom units, which are quite powerful and fulfill a decent amount of battlefield roles. The main problem here is that some of them might seem very samey, and I'm talking more combat-wise rather than aesthetically. Aesthetically, they're all the same, they're all part of the same order, so it makes sense for them to have at least a 90% visual resemblance. I mean, if everything's from the same order, you can imagine this as all of them wearing the same uniform in a sense. It is rather confusing to see that on the battlefield, especially if you're not really paying too much attention to the unit cards, but as stated before, it's expected. You're not there to really field completely massive amounts of different armies or Blood Knights. They're expensive, so you'd be fielding a small amount of them. What I do find rather interesting is that we do have a dragon, but created as a hero character. It's got access to some spells and so on, and in truth it's nothing too impressive. Obviously if you're fighting against races such as high elves and so on, it'll get shot out of the sky very quickly, but still I thought it was a nice touch. This mod itself is not basically 100% lore friendly, but it is very close, and I think the modder interpreted the lore very well. As usual, should you want to get access to this mod, it will be linked in the description below. But with that, my friends, we come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Using our special link and also our special code, both of which can be found in our description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Pence and Ordo for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Hewell and VS Vasan for subscribing to us at our Fane level. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough for the support. It really means a lot to me, especially since all the money earned from Patreon goes directly back onto the channel. New webcam, equipment, microphones, and so on. And a big thank you to all of you liking, sharing, commenting on these videos. Honestly, I'm really enjoying creating this content and chatting to all of you guys about speculation, new content, and so on. It's absolutely awesome. It's been nice to make a few friends along the way. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.